Hello, I'm Mike Sullivan, and I'm going to talk today about a biophilic design approach. And my presentation isn't perhaps as technical, but it's more about an approach to design. Biophilia. What is biophilia? Biophilia is man's instinctive bond with natural systems. So we're talking about why do we like nature so much? When we have a natural situation, we feel more comfortable. And this is the kind of thing that we're going to try to bring into the landscape. This slide you might be wondering about, but how many people have seen Planet of the Apes, the very first one? This is it. And this is, I'm not sure how to work this, but there's Charlton Heston. If you don't know the story, he crash lands on another planet. And he doesn't know where he is, and of course he has so many ordeals with the apes and everything. And finally, after he's all through with it, he comes on the beach and he's walking here, and there he sees the Statue of Liberty, and he realizes, damn it all! They've destroyed it! And it's just kind of, science fiction, but it's, what could happen if we don't pay attention to going back to the natural things. So the next slide. And this is my my attempt of identifying a modern ruin. So you can see this year was all asphalt and concrete drainage, and it's been replaced with cobble and planting materials to catch all the water before it gets to the storm drain. So that's the modern ruin. Biophilia. This image just reflects the natural Sierra Meadow. And next. And this is the developed landscape to capture that same feeling. So it's capturing the feeling of a particular region, or in this case, it's a residential home, so we captured their desired experience of the Sierra Nevadas. So it's capturing that sort of experience, as well as, in the next slide, in our project is in San Gabriel foothills. It's very, of course, it's LA, and fortunately here we have very well-drained soils, and we have the water coming right out of the San Gabriel Mountains. And another tool we use is called biomimicry, and so this is the local San Gabriel foothills, and then this is in our project what we try to mimic from that system. And now it's not only the visual, it's also how it works. And so again, this project is called Gateway Center, and it's Southern California. Edison had taken over a series of buildings, industrial buildings, and so there's a lot of asphalt and there's not much landscape. So we came in and tried to bring it back to a more natural state. Next. I showed this slide because I'm really intrigued by mosaics in the natural landscape, and we see less and less of it, but this is a California native community, coastal sage, and just a different textures. This one's not that colorful right now, but this kind of feel is something that we try to get into the landscape, not a row of this, a row of that, but to create a kind of a blend of plantings that create a mosaic. This is the Gorman Mountains, and it's another thing that we're attracted to is meadows, and to try to create the kind of meadow that exists in California. One of the things is the colors. So in biomimicry, we can't always, this is lupin, this is poppies. You can't put those in landscapes. Those are the things they pull out. They don't have to pull them out, they just die. So what we want to do is mimic this. So what kind of plants can we use that have the same kind of color, the same kind of feel, and produce this kind of mimicry of the natural landscape. This is a project we did here in San Diego, and the notion here was to create a campus. This is Torrey Pines commercial complex, and with the whole site we created an oak woodland type of meadow. This was before stormwater requirements, but with the meadow, we took out all the lawn that was there, and we actually redid the parking and added more arable land. And these are some more pictures. And creating, go back one, this is creating low areas where we collect the water for a period of time and let it go and get the feeling of the meadow with the different plantings and oaks. And this is Bulbinella, which we kind of use as the orange in the California poppies. Go ahead. This is Salvia clevelandii, Leonotis, to get those same kind of colors in there. And then the different grasses and ceanothus and a mosaic of plant mixtures to give that impression of a natural landscape. This is in Los Angeles, and this is the LA River. And so this is where all the water is going, and we want to keep it from getting there. And it's, I was having a conversation today about how kind of our what we've done is we've created these big channels from the floods that happened in 1939, and we're trying to get away from the river. When in reality, if most of the time people are trying to get to the river and live around the river, and that's a great experience. So kind of right now, the big view goal is to get back to the point where we're able to get back to the natural, the rivers, and ripping out all this concrete and replacing it with a new system. Of course, the imported water. Go back one. This was a little project we did for the Solar Decathlon, and it's every man's garden, and it's a system of sustainable effects. But I just show it briefly. Go ahead to the next one. Go on. Okay, our project is Gateway Business Center in Irwindale, California. And so the first thing we did was we took a look at the overall context, and this is the San Gabriel Mountains. These are the foothills. So as you come out of here, you have a fabulous alluvial fan full of rock and gravel and fantastic drainage. And we had, go ahead, geotechnical studies done, and there was as much as 6 inches to 22 inches of per hour of infiltration. So we're very fortunate in that way. I like this picture here. This is the foothills, and this is actually part of our project right here. So just again, looking at the watershed, and what we want to do is a biophilic approach. We need to look at the local. Oh, that's not right. They said I only have 1 minute left.
You haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
I was just entranced with what you were saying.
All right.
Paying attention to my numbers.
5 minutes.
We're going to change it.
Okay, so we went out and just looked at the local regional character and tried to learn from the local landscape and how it worked and how it looked and how we could incorporate it into the overall design. We put together this collage, which talks about a lot of different sustainable ideas. And what we were asked to do was, on this project, to implement as many sustainable ideas as we could think of. It was a nice opportunity. It wasn't we didn't have to constantly be looking at metrics and regulations. So it gave us the kind of the freedom to explore different things. So we have captured views, biomimicry, bringing the San Gabriel foothills into the project. Go ahead, Brian. Initially, you can see the project is just a bunch of tilt-up buildings. And the first thing we did was we knocked down a bunch of walls in between buildings and created a connection of pathways and whatnot. So kind of the idea was to create, a walk in the foothills and to, at different areas, have different type of landscapes and events. Go ahead. You can see this is the spine, and then we have bioswale and storm garden. And this is a huge bioswale that we created wasn't there before. And our goal as well was to capture 100% of the water on site. Go ahead. This diagram shows, why don't you go one forward, Brian? Okay, this area, which was all asphalt, had three distinct features. One was creating a bioswale in the center. This area, we had the fortune to be able to redo the parking lot so that we had 14 feet of space, I think it was more than that, to create a bioswale. And we adjusted the grading a little bit so that all the water now is draining into this bioswale. And then the water from here goes down and into the storm garden, and eventually on out to the street, but it never does make it to the street. So with the systems implemented, we had the solar canopy here. So we were trying to, this area we were attempting to go off grid. And so we had the bioswale to pick up the water, we had the storm garden to do some rainwater harvesting. And we took this roof and captured the water into a container along this edge. And the goal being to use the solar canopy to power a pump to irrigate basically this area right here to be completely and totally off grid. So in our approach to the site water capture, we looked at the roofs of the buildings as watersheds. And then we looked at all these watersheds and realized, wow, there's a lot of water here. It's about 70% of the project site. So in this slide, we have infiltration, permeable paving, bioswale. And so we're looking at the site to see where we could create bioswales, where we could create infiltration. And so we identified those areas overall on the project, and then developed each of those spaces individually. This diagram shows rainwater harvesting, and also it showed that this roof, we took the entire area and infiltrated it right at the bottom, and the overflow of that would continue here and go into this bioswale. And in doing this, there was a lot of, we also, go back one, Brian? One more. So these areas here, this is the permeable paving that we would, everywhere where there was a catch basin, or what do you call those things?
The swale.
Concrete swale, thank you, reading experience. That's a concrete swale, so we made every attempt to capture water before it got there. So we have them all, and they also, my idea was, hey, that could be a good, pathway. And then they think, no, that's not a good idea. You don't walk in the middle of the street. So, but, indeed, that's what everybody does there. So, okay. These are our, when we look at sustainable practice, we look at it as there's an ecological component. And then, go ahead. And so this little graphic shows how we're taking the sun and harvesting it, and the solar canopy, and bringing it over here to the pump, the bioswale taking water down into the earth, and the storm garden taking water from this roof, and the filtration system is up on the wall. So it's filtered there, those things are replaced or cleaned out, and the water goes into this tank. Then the additional, the water that overflows comes along the top of this wall and falls back into the storm garden and goes back down again. So it becomes similar to your project where you can see, the water moving. You can, in a rain event, you see all this water. The fountain only works when it rains. So say, hey, it's raining. Let's go see the fountain. All right. And then sustainable practice, human component. And this is something we really tried to create places that people want to be. And that's a big part of biophilia. And and then go back one, Brian. And creating a circulation and wayfinding people, places, and capturing views is also a big item. So this simply showing how we have the two layers, one layer of the resource integration and the other of the biophilic areas. I just point out this area became a reused space. Go ahead to the next one. This is the actual site here, where it's basically all parking lot and the industrial buildings and the captured view. The view to the mountain was a big deal to us, and we wanted to, as people walked through the project, see that mountain whenever possible, and we wanted to bring the plants and trees and whatnot, or at least the biomimicry of it, into the project. So you see that, you see the similar plantings and cobble and whatnot, and then you get the same feeling. And when you do these kind of things, you really do bring in kind of birds and butterflies, and you don't want to say skunks or rabbits or snakes, but that too. Go back. So the asphalt was ripped out, and the bioswale created. There was also a number of concrete demolished that was reused in the pathways, and then we also had some bridge systems. So we wanted to make the bioswale interactive. So we wanted to get it wide enough so you can actually walk through it, and it becomes a place where people can walk and smoke and talk and eat those sizzling hot Cheetos that everybody loves so much, and hide. And so here is the experience here. So the bridge goes up. In this case, the bioswale, it wasn't completely in the beautiful trapezoidal forms that we've seen by the engineers. Those are incredible, and we try to emulate them. Not! And so what we're trying to do is create something that's natural and looks as if it's something that you'd see in the San Gabriel foothills. So because we had good drainage, these areas are infiltration areas that they just soak up the water really, really quickly. And then the rest of it, we're using plantings to mimic the San Gabriel foothills. And here it is. This is the walkway. You're walking towards the solar canopy, and with a view of the mountains. And then, of course, there's the cars. We just used, on the edges here, we just have the tire stops for the cars, but the water just goes directly right into the bioswale. This just shows the before, during, and after for the solar canopy. Next. Then we had the storm garden. And the storm garden is where we wanted to capture the water from the roof. And early on we had a wind ball that we tried out, but it didn't work. It was very, it didn't go fast enough. You had to have more wind, and you have to have a certain miles per hour. So it just didn't work. So we abandoned it and just went back to this solar. Okay. So you can see this area was a loading dock that was no longer used for that. So we decided to take it out and create an amphitheater-like space. So they tore out this is all concrete here. We used stone that was dug up from the ground to use as a base for this wall. And the seat walls for the amphitheater are the broken concrete, with concrete poured on top of it. We also were able to, in the paving, you can't see it well, but it's an aggregate that was used from all the aggregate found on the site. And here it is. And we have the platform here because underneath the platform is where all the water comes and collects, and then it continues on its path. It's just that's another infiltration zone. And this here is the rainwater harvesting tank. It wraps around the corner, and you can see this little piece is an overflow. And the wood here is from classic pickle barrels, so it's repurposed wood. Okay. This is the newest version of buffalo grass, and it was uses very, very, very little water, but it does go deciduous. And when they had the main opening, of course, it was deciduous. What'd you put in brown grass? Well, brown's a color too, you know. And here's this. Unfortunately, I didn't have a picture in a rainstorm, but so I just had to put a hose in there. And but this is what would happen in a rainstorm. So this is eco-revelatory is the term. If these features show, well, in a storm event, the water runs off and it goes somewhere, and these things, that's part of biophilia as well. You know, you reveal the natural systems, people understand it, and it makes you feel all good and everything, you know, and you stop smoking and you watch your weight, and you become a better person overall. And here's kind of overall look at the, here's another bioswale we did. This was the modern room there. This storm drain here is no longer used. You know, that's the triumph of this whole thing here. And I thought it was very symbolic, but nobody ever sees it. You know, I'm the only one. Okay, next. So finally, on this project, with all the site sustainable features, wherever we had one, we would put a cairn. And if you don't know what a cairn is, that is a man-made stack of rocks that's used to, usually up in the high Sierras where there's no trees above the tree line and there's only glacial moraine, and so you put those things there so you know where to go. So it's kind of a symbol of man being there, you know. And these are balanced rocks, so it kind of, the notion is, you know, a balance with man and nature. So we use these things, and the goal was to put on here a little cell phone tour so that you can dial, the cell phone, and there's a little thing, and this is number 10. It says, on number 10, you know, this is where, you know, the water goes down to the center of the earth and blah, blah, blah. And so that was the goal with that. It was too politically difficult to make that happen, so it didn't happen, but it was a really good idea. And so this guy here, we found him, you know, wandering in the mountains. And he was balancing rocks. He said, hey, can you come out and do that for us? And we said, yeah, sure, no problem. So how much you want? You know, $700. I'll do it for $700 a piece. Said, oh, okay, that's a pretty good price. So so we came out and he did 12 of them, and he was really good. And he would actually balance these rocks, and he'd place them on some, you know, boulders we had there, and then he'd come back later and he'd drill holes in them and stick stainless steel pins. And so the beauty of these is they're sitting there and you know they're fixed, but they truly are balanced. So it was just a nice feature to add to it. And here is, you know, we use the natural cobble dug up from the project for those, like the warning bands for when people drive too fast. So there you have it in a nutshell. So that ends my presentation.